All right, thank you for joining us again. If you just joined us, we are on Africa's State of Equal platform, Africa's number one equality dialogue. My name is Richard, and I'm in the studio with distinguished activists, women and human rights activists who are passionate about the health and well-being of women. Yeah, the topic of today is we're looking at how social norms or structures contribute or perpetuate violence against women and girls in the society. And before we went on break, we were looking at what constitutes violence against women and girls, and then we looked briefly at some norms, and a lot were highlighted. I think Susan was still itching to say something. Maybe perhaps we should say something, and then we'll listen to other partners. Then we'll wrap up the session by giving some recommendations.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard. I just want to highlight something. You know, men and even the society believe that once you're married to a woman, she becomes your property. You can do with her anything you want to do. This includes even sexual intercourse, because there are so many families where the man decides to have sexual intercourse with the woman, even when she doesn't feel as to do that. And they think because you're already married, it is your responsibility to give the man sex whatever time, be it you're sick or not, you know. And this has really gotten into the heads of many men and even women, that even when their body doesn't allow them to, do this, they would still want to do it because the society has said it is your responsibility as a woman to give sex to your man. So these are some of the things that bottle women up, and they tend to suffer. They tend to suffer, and we call this marital rape. I know what many Africans, if you bring up this issue about marital rape, they will tell you there is nothing like marital rape because you are married and it is your property. You are the property of the man. So that's what I have to say for now.
Just like Susan said, the man feels it is right, and also a man now feels okay if he asks his wife for sex and she refuses. The next thing is to beat her up, to correct her, because it is her duty to give him sex whenever he wants. And then since she doesn't want to do that, she has to be beaten for her to know, okay, whenever he comes for it, you are supposed to give, whether you like it or not. And then if you tell a woman, okay, go here, and she says no, she doesn't want to go yet, like she will rest, he now starts beating her. I'm talking to you, I am your husband, I have the right to you, whatever I say you should do. And since she doesn't, it's like, okay, I have to beat you to correct you. You don't know what you're supposed to do. So yeah, you're being disrespectful to your husband. They tend to be like, I am the one in charge of everything. So
all right, thank you so much, Grace. Thank you, Susan, for your beautiful and wonderful contributions. At least our viewers are getting to know more about what are the norms and beliefs, that create the room for men to abuse women and then perpetrate violence against them. I think Maria has been a bit quiet, so let's see if she would give us a more bigger or wider understanding on the subject matter. Mariam?
Rape is usually not sex. It's actually as a result of power, and that is where we come in, right? Men have the need to show, some of these particular men have the need or find the need to show their masculinity, and they feel like, okay, since they cannot show it by probably talking, then they will definitely force it, and that is where rape comes in. At times you see a man threaten a woman, I will rape you, or something like that. So these are part of the issues, the things I feel like we all need to come and address. And if you're in a situation in which you know a rapist or you know somebody that attempted rape, you should call them out. You should say something if you see something. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. I am beginning to enjoy the conversation. I wish it could go on and on, but because we're limited by time, I think it will be important for us to quickly look at some of the solutions, having looked at the beliefs and norms that people hold largely in society, that is fueling the crisis, is giving the room for women to be abused and violence to be perpetrated against them. I think we could look at some of the recommendations. What are the things you think? What kind of actions do you think we really need to do? For me, I've been thinking about, looking at civil and legal reforms, how we could do some of the reforms that can change our perceptions about women and the laws to back it up, like especially intimate partner violence. So I don't know if you people have suggestions.
The parents should talk to their children, the boys especially, in ways to behave around women and with women. You don't just see a woman and you start touching her without her permission. And the ladies should also be talked to about the way they behave around men.
I think we still have a long way to go. We need to do a lot more on advocacy and awareness. We need to talk to these people. What I've noticed, for instance, we are here on this platform, you're the only male here. And I think if we are supposed to address these issues, we have to talk to the perpetrators. Most times you see, if we're doing advocacies and awareness creation sessions, you find women on the table, all of them discussing their problems. You will not find men joining them to say, okay, these are the things that we are doing wrong that we need to address. So I think if we are actually going into advocacy and awareness, then we should make sure to include men in our discussion so that they can address these issues that they themselves are perpetrating. Thank you.
All right, Maria, I think you would like to say something, so we can round up.
In terms of awareness, can be in different forms. It can be in the community as well as amongst us that are, advocates, right? So as we advocate, like for instance, in terms of GBV subsector, which we are all part of, right? Through GBV subsector, we could also, learn. We could, attend trainings, and this particular training, we should we should be able to step down these trainings to other sectors, like for instance, the livelihood sector, the nutrition sector, and as well as to make sure that there is what they call gender mainstreaming in all our activities. Whatever activities we are doing, we need to be able to mainstream gender to see, okay, what are the numbers of women, what are the numbers of boys, what are the number of girls that are participating or contributing to this particular activity. And apart from that, Richard talked about policy reforms. I would also like there are actually some other policies that we need to strengthen, right? And some states that needs to be encouraged to accept some laws that are already on ground, like for instance, the VAP Act, right? The Child Rights Act. There are so many, actually the northern states, they are finding it difficult for them to accept the Child Rights Act. Up till now, there is still a lot of awareness, a lot of advocacies for them to accept this. So there is a need for us to consistently, awareness is not just in the community, but also amongst us that are practitioners and at large the government. Thank you very much.
Wow. Those are very brilliant suggestions from brilliant people. I think if you're just joining us, we are on Africa State of Equal platform, Africa's #1 equality dialogue. This is an educative and interactive platform that seeks to increase public awareness about sexual, gender-based violence, and any other thing that is relating to social equality. So on this program, we bring people together and they share their views, as well as urge the public to send in comments and views, so we can be able to all advance the cause or make progress on achieving equality by 2030. Thank you for joining us today. You'll see us in our next episode. Thank you.